Aima begins in 1981. An award ceremony has just honored South Korean superstar Hee-ran. When she is alone, she is serious and practical, a woman who goes after what she wants without hesitation. This is clear when her manager, Young Bae, gives her a new script titled Madame Aima. She throws it away after realizing it is an erotic film. A party is held in her honor by her ex-fiancé and producer Koo Jung-ho. He believes that in the new decade, sex sells. Hee-ran arrives and punches him for suggesting a film like Madame Aima. Moments later, she turns to her guests and slips back into her polite, graceful screen image. Later, she bribes the main reporters and holds a press conference. Calm and elegant, she announces that she will never do nude scenes. The reporters praise her decision and present it as a brave stand. This angers Jung-ho, who reacts by demoting Hee-ran to a small role as Erica and casting a newcomer as Aima. Hee-ran is still bound by an exclusive contract with him, with one final film left before it can end. Hee-ran makes her own move and approaches director Kwon, an award-winning filmmaker, hoping to be cast in his next project. She had rejected him in the past, and he also does not want Jung-ho involved as a producer. She presents herself with her usual humble and elegant manner, but it is unclear if Kwon is convinced. Not willing to take risks, Hee-ran instructs Young-bae to persuade Kwon's production team to work with Jung-ho's company. Their goal is to cancel Aima and make Kwon's film her final project under Jung-ho's contract. Elsewhere, Jung-ho is trying to convince his regular investor, Mrs. Wang, to take a chance on a newcomer. He confidently claims that he made Hee-ran a star and can do the same with a rookie. The next day, Hee-ran attends the open auditions for Aima as a judge. Director Kwak, a man full of frustration, clearly has a crush on her, and she uses this to disrupt the auditions. However, she hardly needs to interfere because none of the candidates are suitable. As Kwak rushes home, he meets Jue, who is late for the audition. She is direct, unapologetic, and willing to lie to get what she wants. A tap dancer, she uses her repeated steps to suggest innuendo and flirt with Kwak. Later, Jue returns home to a rundown shanty shared by single women working in nearby factories. Life is hard, and they struggle to survive, but Jue remains hopeful and ambitious. It also becomes clear that she admires Hee-ran. Jue is cast, which is announced as good news. Jung-ho behaves crudely, but she quickly shuts him down. Soon after, Hee-ran arrives. She accuses Jue of sleeping around to get the role and throws her out. Jue immediately talks back before leaving. At the same time, Young-bae tries to approach Kwon's producer, but the attempt does not go well. Director Kwak asks Jung-ho's assistant, Mr. Ji, to track Jue down. After some trouble, Ji finds her at the dance club where she works. Jue reacts fiercely, beating him up and accusing the production company of taking advantage of desperate newcomers like her. At home, Jue talks to her friend Gonha. She admits that Hee-ran feels special, while she does not see anything special in herself. She watches Hee-ran on television, clearly conflicted, admiring her, but also resenting how badly she was treated. Jue decides to take one last chance and goes back to the audition. She takes off her clothes and says she will do whatever it takes to become an actress. In return, she demands to be made the next Hee-ran. Hee-ran laughs at Jue and says that no one can ever replace her. She tells Jue to leave. Jue refuses and asks the other judges for their opinions. Jung-ho likes her bold attitude, and Kwak is clearly taken with her. Jue is chosen as Aima, which deeply annoys Hee-ran. The studio provides Jue with her own apartment. Her first stop is to see her friend Gonha, who is preparing for a protest. Jue asks Gunha to stay with her as an assistant. Junha hesitates, not wanting to leave her friends behind, but eventually agrees. Ji tells her she will not be paid, but she will get to live comfortably. Elsewhere, Hee-ran tries to end her contract. Jung-ho warns her about the consequences, and she backs down. Still, she reminds him that the fans who earn him money are loyal to her. Reporter Yang and the factory women say goodbye to Junha and Jue. They ask Jue not to forget them and their struggles, leaving her emotional and in tears. New trouble appears with Jung-ho's girlfriend, Mina, an aspiring actress. She is angry that he did not cast her as Aima. She takes provocative photos of him and uses them to blackmail him. Young Bae receives the first draft of director Kwon's new script, Predation Night. Hee-ran is deeply moved by how strong it is and rushes to Kwon's house, begging him to cast her. He says the story is not finished and may include nudity. She insists she will do whatever he asks. She admits that despite her fame, she has only chosen projects for money. This time, she wants to act for the art. Her words push Kwon to complete the script. He imagines a dark scene where a woman kills her lover during sex and walks away. Meanwhile, Kwak rewrites Ama with more restraint and meaning. Jung-ho rejects it and demands the original blunt erotic version. When Kwak tries to argue, Jung-ho threatens to fire him. Kwon offers his script to Jung-ho, who has always wanted to work with him. The meeting quickly turns bad. Kwon does not respect Jung-ho, but stays polite because of Hiran. Jung-ho tries to replace Hiran with Mina, and Kwon openly mocks him. The argument becomes violent and ends in bloodshed. As a result, Jung-ho is no longer producing Kwon's film, and Hiran loses the role. Elsewhere, Kwak visits his old friend Hyuk, a failed actor who now works as a bartender and is popular with women. Kwak feels jealous but remains loyal and casts Hyuk as the male lead in Ama. Meanwhile, Paul's assistant helps dress Jue. Paul is clearly unimpressed but stays silent out of loyalty to Hiran. Jue is given a plain midi dress, while the outfit she likes is a beautiful custom gown meant for Hiran. At home, Jue cuts up the dress and redesigns it into something more revealing. She wears it to the film's first press conference. Hiran looks on, judging Jue for her bold makeup and exposed skin. When they are alone, Hiran throws Jue's belongings at her and scolds her for disrespecting Paul's design by turning it into something vulgar. Jue argues that showing cleavage does not make her promiscuous and that she is only trying her best. Realizing Hiran will not listen, Jue drops her things on the floor and walks out. Outside, both Jue and Jonha complain about how Hiran can be so beautiful and elegant, yet cruel and rude. They run into a reporter who often visits the dance club and used to flirt with Jue. Even sober, he behaves the same way, making crude comments and asking if Jue and Gonha are together. Back at the boutique, Paul is upset that Jue ruined his design. Still conflicted, he begins working on a new custom outfit for her, but makes it extremely modest. Jue takes her first horse riding lesson. Her approach is unusual, as she refuses to control or dominate the horse. The method works, but it only makes Hiran more upset. Soon after, censorship authorities reject Ama's script. Kwak is furious, but Jung-ho points out that this gives them a chance to make the erotic content more subtle and artistic. That night, Hyuk gets drunk and leaves the bar on his motorcycle. At the end of Ama Episode 2, Youngbae tells Hiran that Hyuk has been in an accident. Hyuk is in the hospital. Hiran feels relieved, while Jung-ho is upset. He quickly devises a plan to cast a new male lead and continue shooting the remaining scenes in the meantime. When Hiran tries to stop him, Jung-ho gets physical, but their confrontation is cut short when Kwak has a breakdown. Filming prep begins regardless. Jue works hard to get into her character's mindset. She isn't bothered that Kwak cast her mainly for her body. She admits that she used to be ashamed as a teenager, but now uses her body to achieve her goals. She even encourages Kwak, telling him he can work around the censorship, which inspires him to complete the rewrites. However, Jue panics when she receives the new script just 15 minutes before filming. Hiran, in contrast, remains completely unfazed. Meanwhile, Ji is impressed as Gyunha helps organize the bribes to ensure the revised script passes censorship. Filming begins, but Jue struggles to remember her lines. Hiran performs flawlessly and gloats. Jue becomes nervous, and they take a break. In her dressing room, Hiran tries on the new Paul Go dress but doesn't see the vision. Jue barges in, telling Hiran to back off since it's her first day ever. Hiran simply remarks that an actor either has talent or does not. The next scene shows Ama getting acupuncture, with both her and Erika becoming aroused. Jue performs well, but Hiran storms off, unable to understand her character's motives and refusing to follow directions blindly. Kwak has no solution, and Hiran leaves for the day. Jue confronts her, accusing Hiran of being money-hungry and hateful. Hiran asks why one should give their all after losing faith. Hiran accidentally takes Jue's script. Reading the notes, she is surprised to see that despite everything, Jue looks up to her and wants to be like her. Kwak still struggles with how to film the sultry scenes within censorship limits. Jue suggests having her wear a thin dress in the rain, which gives him the inspiration he needs. Elsewhere, the female assistant shows the new male lead, Yunho, how to cover himself to imply nudity without actually showing it. She seems amused and flustered when he accidentally flashes her. Jue continues to perform well in scenes that don't require memorizing dialogue. Kwok's innocence and inexperience show when he tries to direct a sex scene, but Jue takes control, and in the shot, she shares a fleeting moment with him. The moment is interrupted when Yunho becomes aroused. While some male crew members are annoyed, the female assistant checks on him and helps him, creating a small, intimate moment between them. Suddenly, the Ministry of Culture arrives and halts filming. Jonha's bribe has failed. Jungho scrambles to bring in influential people to resume production, which unfortunately means sending Jue to entertain government officials stressed by planning the 1988 Olympics. Meanwhile, Jonha and Gi seem to grow closer. She steps in to protect him when a drunk Kwok accuses Ji of stealing the bribe. Later, feeling responsible, Jonha apologizes, but Ji bluntly assures her it's not her fault. He sends Junha to check on Jue, and she arrives just in time to see Jungho threatening Jue to attend the Olympics party. Junha doesn't want her to go, but Jue lashes out, saying Junha doesn't understand her. She declares that she will do anything to escape poverty. Exactly as Junha feared, the hotel's madam orders Jue to strip. She is dressed in the latest fashion by maids who silently judge her. The madam then threatens to kill Jue and her friends if they tell anyone what happens at the party. Jue, in tears, enters the party, which is filled with strippers and government officials meeting escorts. Hiran is there too, wearing a revealing gown and singing. She gives Jue a knowing look as Ama Episode 3 comes to an end. Got it. Here's a short version you can use. What do you think will happen next? Comment your thoughts and let me know if you want me to upload part 2. I can